Should wizard hit mommy? And in this chapter, actually, we had already seen how this small girl, June, who is, by a sweet name called Joe, gives this her opinion intermittently, and she goes on asking several questions. So her inquisitive nature, that also we had seen, how she is curious about certain things and she is not ready to accept whatever is told to her. She has certain doubts, and some of the doubts are there, which she feels like to be known or to be rectified or to be clear. This is, she was at the time page number 50 and then 51. Just I beg your pardon, for some technical reasons we had to pause the class, and I hope I am audible at the same time visible. The clarity must be a little more at this point of time, because earlier there was some other issue. Am I visible to you and am I audible to you? I think I am. And anyways, as we had already continued with the background of the last class of ours, which was there on Saturday, so there we had already discussed what had happened over there and how the girl, Jo, she wanted not everything to be accepted as the things were told to her. And here it was her inquisitive nature, that's what actually we had talked about. Inquisitive nature is a very curious sort of nature. She has various questions, and as long as we have questions, our intellect is growing. And the moment we stop on this particular issue, I think we have stopped learning of any kind in all our lives. And with children, actually, this inquisitive nature is tremendous. And these children, they generally want, clarification for several points that we raise to them. And if clarity is there, maybe one of the issues. Anyways, but I'll proceed. I think my voice is audible to you. Well, one of the points mentioned over here is page number 50. If you can just read last but one paragraph, the first line here reads like, "Are magic spells real?" And I think this was the last point that we had discussed in the class, whether magic spells are real. And then we had talked about certain things and certain issues of science and technology, and also of the world of superstition that we have been following. And I must have told you even at that time, you should not accept the things as they are, just happening around, because that is not the role of a student of science. The student of science must have the attitude, or I would say the bent of mind, which questions generally, and those questions must be relevant. And of course, you may not get the answers right at that moment itself. You may have to wait for, browsing through internet sometimes, and then reading certain books, and then coming to the conclusion, yes, this is something, what you wanted to know. So this was one of the examples as to how we come to know that the girl was quite eager to know certain things, and that's what is asked. She had asked her father. When father told, then there was some magic spell done. So immediately the girl asked the question whether these magic spells are real. I think in real life situation we do not find any magic taking place. Whatever the score that you might have got in your last class or in the previous one, maybe in the 10th standard, it was all purely your hard work. And the Almighty must have helped only those who might have put all their 100% efforts. So the one fine line is very much clear, that those who make efforts, for them is the success. Those who put their 100%, only they can reap the beautiful, you can say, the cultivation of their hard work. And therefore it is no meaning to discuss on the point whether by approaching any sadhus or babas, whether your work is going to be done. Impossible. It is not going to take place, because there is no scientific truth in it. All your efforts, all the results, and the results would be all yours, because the way you have put the efforts, accordingly the results you get. The next question that she asked, that comes in the next line, when he told her spiders eat bugs, she turned to her mother and asked, do they really? Actually, this is the point of time where the father tells us how the daughter had developed this inquisitive nature. And one of the points that we have already discussed, whether magic spells are real, is a question. And the next is when the father tells, had told some time back, when both of them must be there, the father and the mother at the same time, and the daughter must have been, listening to the story by the father. That time when father told these bugs, something about bugs, that spiders eat bugs. So she immediately did not accept all that, and she wanted the clarification, and for that she approached her mother. Immediately she must have looked at her mother and said, do they really? So this is what something, a small child or a learner should have this nature, that they must have the attitude to find out whether there is everything, whatever is told, lies the truth in that. And if it is not lying the truth there, then you should have the attitude to, have that doubt going on in your mind until you meet your desired conclusion, or you can say the satisfactory answer that you are expecting. Until that, you must go on searching for that. Well, this was another. And now one important thing that you would notice here in the course of the story, as you read it, there are points wherein you come to know the way some character behaves, like the wizard. As the picture is given on page number 51 on the right hand side, it has got a long beard, his eyes are how they are like, he has put on a hat, he also is bent forward. This is something which you can say suspicious or doubtful characters generally have this kind of postures. Well, trends have changed. The something which we used to assign to the villains, those qualities, nowadays they are different. Even the good-looking, the heroes are given the roles of the villains to play in the movies. But a typical sort of thing is generally noticed. Now, as we are going to proceed with the story, I will again take help of these PPTs. Well, in one of the PPTs, there is one mistake in the spelling that may sometimes ooze you with laughter, but I'll try to hide it as much as possible. It will take some 30 seconds time to shift to the PPTs, and in the meanwhile, I'll just continue. I'll take the help from the technical team. Well, page number 51, when you see where the picture of this wizard is there are one-line sentences. The father then explains to the daughter, wizards did not have any cleaning lady. This means he was so old that he did not have any cleaning lady, or he couldn't get any maid servant. Yeah, and therefore, the girl immediately has a question: why? Yeah, please, you can just go ahead with PPTs. And the girl therefore puts a question, why? Then father says, why? Because he was a wizard and a very old man. She immediately has a question, will he die? That means she has somewhere taken into her mind, as soon as somebody grows older, has to meet his end. And therefore she asked that question, whether this fellow would die. And now I'm here with the PPTs. All these things we had already seen. Now the question here is, wizard asked Roger for 7 pennies. And here the first point reads like, you can put me your questions here. I am there in front of the chat box. So whenever you feel like putting your question, even if it goes little ahead, I will explain it to you. The wizard asked Roger to give him 7 pennies. I think before that we had already seen there in the story, this fellow had approached the wizard, and then wizard gave him the desired result. And the result was he wanted this fellow Roger Skunk to pay him his money. Well, he could not because he had only 4 pennies, and therefore the wizard told him where he would find the remaining remaining pennies. And then Roger Skunk had to go to the end of the lane and turn around 3 times and look down the magic well. So here I would like to tell you, this is a usual line of story and a very common line of story that they had always followed, as the character named Roger with different other titles is sent to the wizard through the owl. It is like immediately, yes sir, and then he would be asked to pay the amount, as the amount would not be available with the pattern. Amount would not be available, so he would be asked to go to the well down the lane, and there the character had to peep into it. As soon as he peeped into it, he would find the remaining 3 pennies over there. So Roger exactly did the same, and he found those 3 pennies over there and gave them to the wizard. This was the common storyline that had been followed whenever the stories were being told by the father, either by the father or the mother, but generally it was the father. Well, this was all done, and exactly the same Roger Skunk had done. Now you see, the desired result has come, so naturally we all would become happy, and exactly the same had happened. So Roger Skunk had become extremely happy, and now all other creatures played with Roger. Roger Skunk was very happy. I think in the last class we had discussed with these people, I mean to say, age group, you people have the common desire to be known, to be accepted, or to be welcomed there in the group. And if these things do not take place, they give you unhappiness. They make you unhappy, they make you sad, and because of this, several problems also do creep into your lives. And I'm trying to relate this story, children's story, to the story of you people, to the present time, I mean to say, because this story is of course children's story, but it is not left only for children to understand. It is also for us, and so it is kept there in the curriculum. And therefore Roger Skunk, when was changed to smell like the roses, which was his desire, because according to him the most beautiful fragrance was of the roses. So Roger Skunk was very happy, and he reached home. Of course, before reaching home, he had played with all those creatures there in the woodland. They were so happy to be friends with Roger Skunk, and more than them, Roger Skunk felt great happiness in life. With all that mind of happy mood, he went back home, and he felt as he would reach home, he would be very happily welcomed by his mother, and mother would praise him for the great work that he had done. That is what sometimes we also feel. Something extraordinary, something different do we do, and we feel that it will be all liked by all our family members. But we don't know what exactly happens there, and we cannot exactly say what would be their reaction, because it varies from person to person, and especially with elderly people, they have different approach to look at the things. And when you approach them with some kind of happy news of yours, they might find out 1 or 2 reasons to tell you why you should not be extremely happy about it. Of course, there may be some reason to be elated, but not extremely happy about it, because according to them there are some things which can still be done. So now all the other creatures of course played with him, and Roger Skunk was very happy, and he reached home. His mother got very angry. So here the 4th point comes here in this PPT is the mother became extremely happy. angry. And the reason for being angry, you'll come to know here. Of course, when you have read this story, you might have already come to know. So she found the new smell of roses emitting from skunk's body very awful. Awful is very bad. She did not like it. Now, what may be the reason? Roger skunk naturally liked it. He was actually happy about it, but mother did not like it, and according to her, it was an awful smell. The reason is some things which are, by generations accepted by the elderly people, they want to see the things exactly the same way. And there is one potent, on the most important reason which the story wants to tell us: we should be as we are, and the same way as we are should be accepted by the society. I think you would definitely have a question. If you were there in the class, you would have asked me the question, sir, is it always like that? The way we are, whether the society accepts us in day-to-day life of yours and mine? Generally, we meet the requirements of the society around us. I'm sorry. And from their perspective, we want to do most of the things because we want to live in the society. It's only those people who have got tremendous courage in them, they live the way as they want to, and to everyone's surprise, they are also accepted the way they are. But it does not happen with everyone, because you need to have a complete different temperament for it. It should not sadden you when somebody then criticizes you, or somebody puts a negative remark on your personality. Then you should be ready even to handle that. If you are ready for all that, then you can live a life the way you want. The way you are, you can just be the same. I will just quote a very simple example. Why do we all, most of us like to wear, trendy dresses or modern dresses? The reason is very, very simple, because this is what is today's norm. This is what today's, generation demands. And if you, wear the clothes like people in the past used to be 50 years before, that will make you a laughing stock for other people there in the society at this moment. And so we go for the modern dresses. But you find somebody very typical and believes that whatever is my way, is the highway, and so will therefore just follow the same thing. So at the end, he will or she will just follow the same thing, or the kind of old pattern, maybe wearing the kurta only, never wearing jeans or sports shoes, but maybe wearing very formal kind of dresses. Very great, I would say, a huge courage is required, and they are able to justify all that. Roger Skunk, he was of more people who are of that bent of mind, who need I can say acceptance by the society, welcome by the society, and so he wanted to change his bad smell into fragrance. But that exactly what was liked by him is not liked by his mother, and that's what I had earlier referred to. What we feel would be liked by our parents or our elderly members of the family or people around us or the society. It is never like that. It's not that always what we felt will be accepted the same way by the society. It is never so. Like I quoted one example, Galileo's example I quoted, then Charles Darwin's theory, and then what happened to him, and other people who brought in certain changes. So whether those things were very easily accepted there in the society, it was never so. It was a Herculean task for all those people who brought out these changes. And so because they questioned, and therefore there was a great change that we have experienced today. In today's generation, actually, we have experienced. So many years time is gone. Not just months time, I would say years time has gone into changing of the mind of the people. So it takes time. Well, mother was a typical mother, and she was quite used to the smell. According to her, it is a fragrance because she liked it. It was the smell of a son. Skunk. Any skunk must smell like a skunk only, and should not smell anything else, even if it is as beautiful or as full of fragrance as that of roses. But according to her, that is the fragrance of the roses, and it must be limited only to the roses. It should not go beyond. So when he was of great opinion that when he reaches home, mother would be extremely happy to find her son smell like roses, but it never happened. She found the new smell of roses very awful, and she scolded Roger for this. Why he got it changed, and who was responsible for changing it, and told him that he didn't smell like a skunk anymore. And that is what exactly she wanted. She wanted him to smell like, as in a way, if we are changing somebody else's nature, true nature, do you think that it will be correct all the time? In my opinion, it is never. See, a beautiful fragrance of jasmine and mogra, if it is replaced with some other smell or some other fragrance, do you think that their identity will remain the same? No. And that was exactly the opinion of mother, that she did not want the identity of a skunk must get changed, and that must not have been understood by a small Roger skunk. And so he felt that as the whole world wants to smell beautiful, so he also wanted to do the same, and he got this change done. It was the only reason that made him go to the wizard, and for that he had observed the woodland creatures, that I mean to say the small animals around, they did not like skunk because of his smell, and they hated that smell of his. So he wanted to get it changed or get it replaced, and he got himself smell like the roses. When he went back home, he was scolded, and that's what was something which was unexpected. And maybe if you had read the story, you would find some lines there. The reaction of Jo, according to her, that's a good change, and for the good change, why should somebody say it is wrong, or why should somebody scold? But he was scolded, and that is a surprise for Jo there in the story. So she took Roger back to the wizard, and she hit the wizard over his head. This again is very important, point there in the story, wherein we get the reaction of Jo very strongly. She had never had in the story that the wizard had been hit by anyone. Instead, what she had, the wizard would hit the character there on the head instead to make that person get the change, the desired change. But never was the wizard, hit upon his head. But this time, the mother took this Roger skunk along with her, took him to the wizard. Must have, of course, asked Roger skunk from where he had got this change done. Naturally, must have been informed by Roger skunk through the wizard. So she took him to the wizard's house, and I think she must have had some umbrella in her hand, and she hit that wizard there over his head, and told him that he didn't smell like a skunk anymore. She took Roger back to the wizard and hit the wizard over his head, and asked him to give Roger skunk his original smell back. Here is what we can say virtually the end of the story takes place. That is, the wizard getting the smell back of the skunk to the skunk, and that is making the mother happy. And the question is whether it must have